and, have empathy for other animals and stuff. And we always say we got to use empathy and empathy. But what about empathy for those who are not yet awake? What about empathy for those who are non-vegans? It's like there's a sense of defensiveness and there's a sense of not wanting to let go because it's scary. Change can be scary for people. No matter what change it is, when we don't know the outcome of what it's going to look like, it can be very scary. It can be very overwhelming. So I think as vegans, what we need to do is show people what it would look like to live happy, joyful, to live this healthy life, because there's been so many myths and misconceptions coming from the meat, dairy, and egg industry's propaganda.
To all the so-called foodies out there, McDonald's is making fun of you in a brand new commercial.
All vegetarians, foodies, and gastronauts kindly avert your eyes. You can't get juiciness like this from soy or quinoa.
Except this commercial is grabbing headlines because it's hating on health-conscious folks, saying there's no need to change the almighty Big Mac.
And the thing about people who are in favor of eating animals and their secretions, the thing about it is, it's not that they're not compassionate people. It's that their compassion has been blocked and suppressed intentionally so that we don't have to think about our food choices. And it's been manipulated generally by the industries, by the bigger industries, but our parents play a big role in this as well. And our parents' parents and our parents' parents and so forth and so on. It goes back. It just it's called, I think, who was it? Gary Yourofsky said it's called the same lifestyle syndrome. And so it's kind of tough to break away from that cycle because we already view it as the norm. And again, change can be very scary for a lot of people because they don't know what it's going to look like. And so, as vegans, we need to inspire people in the right direction so that they can have an idea of what it will look like. There are people out there who are willing to listen. There are people out there who's willing to accept new information, as long as we approach them in a way where they feel comfortable. Sometimes all it takes for someone else to get offended is just being the vegan in the room. That's how powerful being vegan is. Just being the vegan in the room, or even vegetarian. But just being the vegan in the room can have so much impact on someone else's stuff, someone else's feelings, someone else's ideas. And there's hostility on both sides. There's hostility from people who feel offended by the vegan message, and then there's hostility in the vegan community towards those who aren't yet vegans because we want them to change so badly. And I get it. I do want people to change, but realistically, change doesn't happen overnight. Realistically, the world doesn't work that way. Like Gary Yourofsky said, it took 400 years to convince white people not to own black people. 400 years. So that's a lot of convincing. Imagine all the excuses in between in the process of trying to, stop segregation and all that from happening. Must have took a lot of work. And so I think we just need to conduct ourselves in a friendly manner, in a joyful manner. We don't want to be misanthropes. We don't want to come across as the angry vegan. We want to be joyful. We want to show people that, you can live a happy, healthy life and still reflect your values as a compassionate being. Innately, we're all compassionate. We're all compassionate. We come into this world with compassion, and I think at our core, compassion is our foundation. But a lot of people who are disconnected from their food choices aren't manifesting their compassion. So we want people to manifest their compassion, and I think people do want to manifest their compassion. I don't think people want to eat animals, and I think in today's society now, eating meat is not the most, I don't think it's the best choice. I think people are starting to realize that, maybe eating animals is not the most ethical thing to do, but since, they've heard so many myths and misconceptions about vegans and vegetarianism, that they refrain from looking in that direction because they've heard so many negative things about it. So that's my message of today. Be hopeful, see the good in people, stay positive, show people that, there is a joyful way of living this life, and view people as people because that's what they are. Just because you're vegan doesn't mean you're innocent. I know a lot of vegans that are assholes, and I know a lot of non-vegans that are assholes. And so it just goes hand in hand. It just comes with how you present yourself. It just depends on whether or not you want to be an a-hole. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So thank you very much. Thanks for watching. And till then, peace and love. Literally, peace and love.
So I think that affects us in every way, and it affects our relationships with one another. So how does not being unconditionally compassionate affect our relationships with one another? I think it is the foundation of everything wrong in our society, is that we have a foundation in everything we do based on exploitation and based on the fact that we are not living according to our truest values, which is compassion and kindness. Most people consider themselves compassionate people. Most people consider themselves kind people, but they're not manifesting that compassion because they're paying for people to kill animals. They're paying for people to hurt animals. They're doing all of these things that actually are antithetical to their deepest values, and then going, but don't tell me anything different, I don't want to know. And so how can you not be affected by closing off your heart and closing off the truth? How can we not be affected by that on a daily basis, on every moment when we're interacting with each other? We're not completely open. We're not completely compassionate.
Right.
So that's what I mean when I say it affects us on every single level. Our policies, our politics, our engagement with our neighbors, our engagement with our coworkers, because we are in a place of blocked compassion, and you cannot act as compassionately as you cannot act with your full potential when you've got a part of your heart blocked off.